Welcome back to the Saints Gaming CA channel, everybody. We are getting ready for OPSE League of Legends action. The second matchup in the season so far for our St. Clair squad, as they now get to go up against the University of Toronto, currently tied for first in the standings. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but first, my name's Dan Banner, going to be one of your hosts today, but we also do have Shadi Hana. Thank you for joining me once again here on the cast. How you doing, man?
Doing great, and I'm really excited to be casting League of Legends. You guys may recognize me from some of the Overwatch casts, but League of Legends is actually my main game. And this is the first time I'm getting to cast League of Legends for Saints Clair, and I am super pumped to see our Saints Gaming squad tear up the rift tonight.
You definitely picked a fantastic match to join us here on, as with both these teams right now. In fact, let's take a look at those standings right here, right now, as we take a look. Of course, like I was saying, University of Toronto currently in decent position here, tied for first position, not dropping a game yet. They have played 2 matches. We've only played the one, so we're tied for third at the moment with our fellow Windsor counterparts there, the University of Windsor and University of Waterloo as well. So if standings can help paint the picture of what kind of match we're going to be looking at here tonight, it should be an exciting one, and hopefully back and forth. You know, I don't like blowouts.
Absolutely, and these teams that we're looking at these standings, like Western University, University of Waterloo, like these are 2 teams that have consistently been at the top of the standings for Collegiate League of Legends, competing in that like big end of season finals. Last year, actually, I had the chance to watch those teams play. So seeing St. Clair like right up neck and neck with these like big tier teams is really inspiring, honestly. And this Saints squad should be very proud of themselves for how they've started off the season. And I'm looking forward to see them carrying on that energy for the rest of the season.
For sure, for sure. Now, in regards to our starting roster, let's take a look at who we have here and how many esports students are they. It looks like it's 4 out of the 5. Of course, we got up in the top lane Andre Segan, Frez. We'll see how much Shen duty he has to play today, unless he gets to play some other things, because apparently they've been working on some different team compositions. We also have Justin McGregor, AM Trick. We have Owen Baines, Yule, and Zachary Dylan Miensfu, all from the esports program respectively, and then our lone non-esports student, Blair Allen Lazzy, in the Protection Security Investigation program.
And it's great to see all this representation from the esports administration program on these teams here. I myself being a first-year student of that program, it's an awesome program. I'm loving the courses so far, and I'm loving all the opportunities I have. And I'm sure these other students here who, you know, my classmates, getting to see them play some varsity games up on the Rift, I'm really excited to see how they perform tonight.
Absolutely. And of course, like I keep reiterating, this one is lining up to be a good matchup. But of course, we'll have to see. Results could only take you so far. And while we are waiting for the teams to get into the lobby, let's actually get to meet one of our League of Legends players. We're going to go up to the top lane and see what brought Frez here in the first place.
Hi, my name is Andre Segan, and I'm the top laner for the St. Clair Saints Varsity League of Legends team. I'm a second-year student in the Esports Administration and Entrepreneurship program at St. Clair College.
A squad to make this happen.
Yeah, the culling came out, but now with the jungler dead, should be somewhat free. A double kill for Frez on the Ornn, and they're zoning cavalry out of the area. He already used the culling.
I first got into video games when I was 5 years old. Every day after school growing up, I would go to my friend's house, and we would do homework and then play games until my dad would pick me and my sister up. Some days it would be road hockey outside, and some days it would be on the PlayStation 2 or the Xbox playing LEGO Star Wars or Call of Duty. I qualified for provincial chess championships when I was 6 years old, as well as playing hockey, soccer, and baseball growing up. So being competitive was in me since I even knew what being competitive was. It wasn't until I was 15 when I came across League of Legends for the first time. I was riding the bus on my way home from high school with my friend Alessio, and he was watching the World Championships on his phone on Twitch. I had no idea what I was watching, but I was very interested to learn more, and a few months down the road I ended up buying my own gaming PC and began to play League of Legends for myself, as well as H1Z1 because it was good at the time.
Mid turret's gone. The inhibitor's gone. Bot turret's gone.
Frez.
There goes Boone.
Big Croc from Frez going and securing the kill onto Boone. And this should be game for St. Clair.
The thing I probably enjoy the most about competing as a part of Saints Varsity Esports is being able to do what I love, competing in League of Legends, while representing my school and what I'm doing my studies in. And I think a lot of students struggle to find something to get involved in while attending college or university, and I'm honestly so grateful to be part of this opportunity while attending college. Additionally, I've made some really close friends in the varsity program, such as my teammates Zach and Evan, who I became friends with on the first day of school back in September of 2019. And here we are a year later, being on the same roster for this year. My main goal for this year is to be more proficient in top lane than my previous main role. I was a mid laner as my main role for most of my League of Legends career, and it wasn't until this year when I started to pick up top lane. I went from having an assassin and control mage playstyle as a Kiana and Nivea main in the past to basically starting from scratch and learning an entire new role and playstyle in the top lane.
Oh, we've got an engagement towards the middle. It's Garen flash right in. Nami's gonna find Lux though, but look at that. Zoe's gonna find that kill onto Garen. That's Frez making his way down towards the river. Flash right in. Damage from downtown. He finds Nami. That's a double kill. Flashes right in once again. 3 players left on the other team. He finds the triple of misfortune. He's looking for more. They're both so low. Lee Sin's there to help, but he does not need the help. It's gonna be Zoe to find the quadra kill. Frez, he's looking for the last one. He'll find the penta.
I think my biggest strength in game is being able to adapt to whatever situation I'm given, whether it's playing from ahead or playing from behind, as well as being able to read my opponent. As I mentioned before, I played chess a lot as a kid, and I think this kind of thing has been a strength of mine both in gaming and in real life when it comes to predicting what someone else is going to do, so I can use it to my advantage. Outside of gaming, I enjoy traditional sports such as hockey, as well as golfing or fishing with my dad. I also enjoy going out with my friends, though I can't say I've been too much of a party person in high school or college. Balancing my varsity schedule with schooling is definitely a challenge at times, but I think that one thing that gaming has done for me over the years is that it's taught me how to just grind through things. And I know that I just need to get certain things done in order to be successful, and that it'll always be worth it in the end. Post-graduation, I'd love to be working for an organization such as 100 Thieves or Team Solo Mid, but I also wouldn't mind getting a job close to home, such as working for Saints Gaming in the future. They're honestly such great people to work with as a player, and I'm sure that they would be just as great to work with down the road as well.
And we're back, and we're going right into the pick ban phase for game number 1. We see some of the bans already put into place, including one on the side of you. Toronto completely blanked out, so curious as to that will be. But in regards to the first picks, Lilia on the board, and that's probably going into the hands of AM Trick. And then on the side of University of Toronto, Jarvan 4, haven't seen him in a little while. And then Misfortune being hovered.
Yeah, this is definitely some interesting picks from U of T. Very outdated, I would say, kind of compared
Classic.
to what we're in the meta. Yeah, absolutely. Classic picks, for sure. Whereas St. Clair, their picks and bans are fairly standard. We've been seeing a lot of Twisted Fate getting picked up at Worlds. His ability to shove out lanes and put pressure on the side lanes is just completely unmatched in this meta. And with mid lane kind of taking on that like secondary supportive role in this Season 10, Twisted Fate being a very prominent pick there, so very strong ban from St. Clair. And following up with the Ornn, which I'm assuming is going to be going into the hands of Frez.
I'd imagine. Yeah.
From on the stream. Followed up with the Ezreal for Lazi.
All right, fair enough there. And then looking over, that blank ban is actually a Graves ban, so we'll not see him in the jungle here today. That was just a bit of a bug there on the side of Pro Draft, but it is what it is. Darius getting locked in for pick number 3 from University of Toronto. Now, usually when I see that, I think of a rather overconfident and aggressive top laner. Is there anything else that that might lean towards?
The Darius pick is typically picked as the lane bully. You know, he puts a lot of pressure in lane, but Darius honestly doesn't get picked up in competitive play for a number of reasons, and mostly because he doesn't provide too much for his team aside from that bullying threat in lane. And at the competitive level, especially the pro or semi-pro level, those lane bullies lose a lot of their effectiveness because better players know how to avoid them, right?
Right.
So this Darius pick is definitely, I think you're right on the mark by saying it's a very cocky pick for sure. But if it does get ahead, it can represent a pretty menacing threat on the map. So St. Clair, especially Frez, is going to have to be very careful with how he pilots himself in lane. But Ornn's a pretty beefy guy. I think he can take it. Ornn's definitely probably one of the best champions equipped to dealing with that heavy bully in lane. So far, I'm feeling pretty good about the St. Clair draft here.
It's interesting. So St. Clair taking away the Leona, so no Leona Misfortune. That is an aggressive lane if I've ever seen one, so good thing they took that out. And then the other blank ban on the side of U of T, Pro Draft unfortunately giving us all the bugs here today, but that is Rakan. So down in the support role, Rakan going to be taken away, and then Yone for mid lane.
And this is an interesting ban to take away the Yone. I know obviously Trick loves to play Yone, but the champion doesn't find himself getting picked up a lot in these situations, especially when you're looking at a draft like St. Clair's, which could really use a heavy AP nuker in the mid lane. Ezreal's pretty slow damage. Lilia's AP, but she's also pretty slow damage. Has to get a couple Qs off before it really starts to sting. So I could see St. Clair leaning towards something like a Zoe, like a Syndra, with just big AP burst, especially now that UFT is locking in these big juggernauts and bruisers. They do a lot against these heavy AD threats. But there's not too much you can do as Jarvan if you're taking 6 Syndra balls to the face. So definitely some options available to St. Clair here.
It's interesting to bring up the Syndra, because everywhere else so far in this OPSE season, whether it be the game from 2 weeks ago or during preseason, Syndra was always banned away, either by St. Clair themselves or against them, just not letting Yule play that champion at all. So it'd be interesting to see him switch over to a Burst Mage. We know he likes to get aggressive, but when I go over the team on the side of U of T, gonna understand why maybe the way they're picking is a little bit more defensive, I feel, especially with the Braum coming out. Can have his opportunities for aggression, but overall relatively defensive. Silas coming out, and then possibly an Orianna around this up here from U of T.
Really interesting follow-up from St. Clair. The Ezreal Braum is a pretty decent lane. Usually you want to take Braum in with an AD carry that can follow up with a double hit to get that stun procced up quickly.
Right.
We're all very familiar with the Lucian Braum, the less popular Sivir Braum. And Ezreal does work as well. If I remember correctly, the Q does actually proc the Braum passive. So there is some limited synergy there. But St. Clair's draft is kind of a little all over the place. You've got some very slow-paced champions mixed with some very hard engage. So they're definitely going to be looking to turtle this out a little bit, which may cause some problems for Trick on the Lilia, who's going to be looking to get some invades and put some pressure down in the enemy jungle. So we'll have to see how they plan on piloting this. Compared to the UFT draft, which is very team fight heavy, you have the Orianna Ball combined with the Jarvan Initiation, combined with the Nautilus Ultimate, combined with the Misfortune Ultimate. It's a wombo combo and a half. So definitely going to be some sketchy team fights for sure breaking out in the mid game. So really going to come down to which team survives the early game the best.
Absolutely could be devastating. We'll have to see how that turns out, if St. Clair are going to be able to maneuver themselves around. Of course, just going through the draft once again. We'll get to confirm that, we know the champions, but you never know. They could try to switch things up, but there wasn't very many flex picks in this draft phase, so it's probably going to be pretty straightforward as to what we're looking at. But I do want to introduce the side of University of Toronto, because these guys look pretty crazy. We've got Architecture, Lil Frosty, we have Defref, Ryan the Kid, RS, and Constanth. And looking at some of their ranks, holy moly, it looks like St. Clair is going to be up for a bit of an underdog run, with the lowest, I think, being Diamond 1, the highest being in Challenger or Grandmaster. Like, there is a lot of solid solo queue players here on this team.
Listen, I've talked to Coach Blazin about this a number of times, and as far as Blazin's concerned, rank doesn't matter. It's the way you coordinate with your team. It's the energy and the attitude you put together when you're partnering up with your team. And it's the way that you dominate your lanes. Rank doesn't matter when you're on the map. You don't have higher base damage when you're Challenger. So we're going to have to see. I'm not worried. And I know the St. Clair squad is coming into this game with a lot of confidence, as they should be. So really looking forward to seeing a really well-fought match here tonight on the Summoner's Rift.
Yeah, but one thing that does matter is mechanics. So I do worry when I see players of super high rank that their mechanics are going to be solid. But at the same time, you're absolutely correct. It's not the end-all be-all. At the end of the day, you still have to pilot those champions together as a cohesive unit and make it work, especially with the team composition like University of Toronto is pulling out here, where it very well could be like combo heavy and like a wombo combo kind of style. So it's easy to mess this up. Like, yes, you've got the ball delivery system on lock. You have multiple targets, which is actually really good on the side of University of Toronto. And then looking at St. Clair's, this feels like I don't see how you properly engage with this. But at the same time, I don't know. I could very well be wrong. This feels just defensive in nature. Am I wrong thinking that?
It's definitely more defensive, but they have a lot of initiation tools. The Ornn ultimate is a great way to get yourself inside of a fight. Braum obviously being able to set up a stun and following up on that, getting that pick and getting out. I think that's definitely how St. Clair's going to have to play this fight. These fights is by going like front to back, one by one at a time. They don't really have a very strong diving backline, whereas the University of Toronto lineup is very aggressive. It's very divey, but it does fall off, and it falls off pretty hard. Like they've got steam right up until about 23 minutes, and then they're done. And at that point, this is when St. Clair can really take over the map. So, like I said, it really comes down to how they play the laning phase. These picks, obviously, with something like the Ezreal and the Sylas, they take a little while to get going. But once they hit about that 2-3 item power spike, we should be able to start seeing some decently matched team fights. But again, it just comes down to making it through that early game. Probably St. Clair's going to have to concede a couple dragons, maybe a Herald here or there, and give a little bit of leeway to that UFT lineup. And once the game kind of progresses and the items start coming out, there should be no problem for St. Clair to swing this game back around.
So basically just turtle till like 30 minutes or something. I'm probably going to be the idea here.
I mean, part of it like that. You have some space for aggression, of course. Lilia has a lot of utility, especially in that like early to mid game. Like once that ultimate comes up, it's great for making picks in the mid lane. Orianna is a very vulnerable champion as well, and especially into the Sylas lane, there's a lot of opportunities to look for a pick, especially if Miansfo manages to find a roam up to the mid lane. So we might see some aggressive plays like that. But honestly, just looking at the lanes and kind of checking for lane priority, the bot side of the map is pretty much going to be in UFT's control for a significant portion of the early game. So it's really just going to come down to how do we survive? How do we defensively ward? Don't give away too many kills early, and really just try to turtle up until we get some of those core items.
Absolutely, and you never know. Maybe your team gets a little bit too overeager, gets a little over-aggressive. Maybe a tower dive gone wrong, and you can actually try to stop some of the early snowballing. Because yeah, like you're absolutely mentioning, which again, props for all the insight and all the strategy here. Definitely appreciate that, but with University of Toronto, like you're saying, they definitely have a timer on their head. We'll have to see how badly they can abuse this early game, or if they're basically going to get timed out and St. Clair can outscale. Because you keep saying about the like 2 or 3 item power spike, we got to get there first. So we'll have to see what kind of damage is done before that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in this meta, and especially one of the, I guess, advantages that I have is I'm actually working with the St. Clair Club League of Legends team. So I haven't spent my time, doing this meta analysis, looking at these champion drafts, working through this stuff. And kind of the way the game has been played since the start of Worlds is a very hard side top meta. A lot of teams like to focus that top lane. And with the Ornn, it's kind of hard to play a hard side top. That being said, with the Lilia follow-up, especially when your mid and bot lane are likely going to be conceding priority, there is going to be some opportunities for Trick to coordinate with Frez and maybe take some control away from Lil Frosty in the red side jungle. Maybe steal away a couple Raptor camps here and start to push a little bit of a farm lead in the jungle. I think that's probably going to be Trick's best way out of this game, is to build himself an XP advantage rather than trying to counter gank the Jarvan, because you just can't. Jarvan's just too strong.
He's really good at doing that whole thing. Yeah, absolutely. Now, for early game, for level 1, do you expect any sort of aggression coming out of either side, or are we just going to line a scrimmage?
There's going to be shenanigans, Dan.
Oh, okay.
Braum. Even for St. Clair, like even though they have a slow early game, Braum does offer a surprising amount of invade threat. And if you can set up with those range champions like the Ezreal and the Lilia to kind of get a little bit of poke onto that stun, get that first stun locked, and maybe follow up with something like the Orange Charge, like the Silas chains, you do have the potential to blow up one of these like squishier champions like the Orianna or the Misfortune. That being said, I can't imagine a situation where UFT doesn't go look for an invade with this Nautilus anchor. It's such a strong initiation tool for sure.
Would definitely make sense, but thankfully, we don't have to wait too much longer. We're about to be getting into game number 1 between University of Toronto and St. Clair College. Shall be an exciting one. 3, 2, 1, here we go. Let's get into it.
So we'll see how the teams go to line up here at the beginning. Of course, the St. Clair squad might be looking for something like the typical 5-point, just to kind of get some vision. But it looks like UFT, like they're setting up in a similar fashion. But the Jarvan did get the ward out and with the reset on for the sweeping lens, as did Trick. So there is always the potential for a late invade. But it looks like UFT might make a fool out of me and actually decide to hold that 5-point, which is very interesting. They have a much stronger early game. But I mean, I guess there's nothing wrong with playing it safe. Don't want to get too aggressive and throw away an early kill for no reason. So,
I mean, I suppose if you have a team composition that is relying on snowballing heavy, it's kind of a mixture of extremes. I mean, you get an early kill, you can just dominate even harder, or you can just kind of throw it away. Because imagine giving a couple kills over to Yul or Lassie in this case here, for example, and all of a sudden lanes that should be a little bit difficult for them are now like even.
I have to say, probably Yule on that Black Spear pickup. What a perfect level 1 buy for the Silas. You love to see stuff like that. He's having a lot of fun with this game, and we're going to have a lot of fun watching it as well. But it looks like going to be a pretty standard start here for UFT, leashing that blue buff with that Jarvan fight, get that extra attack speed. So Jarvan's going to have priority in the jungle, while Lilia is still clearing her Raptors on the bottom side.
Yeah, no sort of invades, nobody really messing with each other. Lassie just kind of going up there into the Toronto side just to confirm where the starting point of Little Frosty was. And in the meantime, Lassie taking a decent chunk of damage to start things off right away. Going to be forcing some potions or some cookies. Because, yeah, of course, Misfortune hits like an absolute truck in this early phase.
Yeah, and you don't really want to be seeing that if you're St. Clair on this side, just as in a lane like this, especially against the Misfortune Nautilus, where they have such a strong level 2. We're going to actually see here, as Misfortune clears out that third melee minion for that level 2 spike, St. Clair's going to have to be backing up all the way to the tower here. There comes the right away, right on that level 2. And that's Mianspo taking about 60% of his health there. If you're St. Clair and you're seeing the wave in that situation, you need to back all the way up to that tower, or that's what happens to your health every single time. They did manage to get a little bit of a trade back on the constant, but I think UFT is very happy with how that level 2 went for their lane, for sure.
Yeah, given the situation, that wasn't actually terrible, because now with constant kind of low, he's going to have to burn through any of his utility to get back up in health. Delay the attack a little bit further. Next time he goes in, like St. Clair could just turn it around on him if he did go in right away. And now up top we do have the gank. Frez is going to be forced to try and dash away here. Flag and drag classic combo coming out here from Lil Frosty. That is a really badly bleeding top laner. Frez going to go down with Architecture, getting the finishing blow on that.
And it's kind of unfortunate it happened like that. I was going to say, I was very impressed at the way Frez used the Fire Breath there to dodge through the flag and drag, but just too much bleed from this Darius. He did, however, force both the flash from Architecture and Frosty, which is actually going to be worth mentioning as Frosty looks for ganks in other lanes. That flash is really valuable on the Jarvan, especially being able to use it for a long distance engage. So him not having access to that for the next 5 minutes could mean some trickier fights around Dragon for the UFT side. But First Blood does go to the Darius there. So tough start for Frez in that top lane.
Yeah, but at the same time, now Frez has absolutely no flash, and considering that he was backing off, he was dashing away so early into that fight, but it just shows how much damage the University of Toronto composition is bringing. That even though Frez was essentially next to the turret before he finally started taking damage, still goes down. Of course, there's so much passive damage, like you were saying, from that bleed. And this could be trouble here for Lazzy, getting hooked up upon Concept. Does have the stun. Actually, they are going to be able to turn this one around, possibly. Ryan the Kid nearly getting out without, or rather, excuse me, just choking over my words here, is Constant. He's actually in trouble. Lazzy somehow turns that one around, but another kill up in the top lane for Architecture. And Ryan the Kid is going to be able to get out of there without any flash blown. Actually, they continued the aggression one more time. Almost gets him with a Mystic Shot. And St. Clair at least trade that up one top kill for the bot side.
Yeah, this game is looking like an absolute bloodbath. It's too bad we didn't get to see what happened up on the top side, but I assume it's just Darius doing Darius things. But in the bot lane, what it looked like actually was UFC had some missed target focus on that initiation. It went in on the Ezreal, but Braum was in front. And rather than switching to the Braum, they really hard focused that carry. So Mianspo was able to take that lack of pressure and flip that around. There's no time to talk about that now. Frosty coming into the bot side is going to mean devastation for the St. Clair squad. They're walking away with 1 health. Mianspo gets taken out, but Trick is there to make sure that Lazzy doesn't fall as well. And Lazzy's going to be able to take the reset here. Ryan the Kid on like 15 HP backing here at that level 4. It's probably looking like a BF sword for that misfortune. I'm not sure exactly how much gold they have available to them, but BF sword here at 5 minutes is going to be very scary for this bottom side. Actually opting for the double Doran start here. So very lane dominant build coming out from Ryan the Kid.
Yeah, I will say on the side of University of Toronto, like in regards to Ryan the Kid, like it definitely sucked for him there because he didn't get any part of that gank onto Mansfield, so no assist gold or nothing, so it was strictly off of whatever he farmed, and opted for another Dorans and a couple long swords. And then up on the top side as well, normally I see a top laner like get a bunch of kills, they start thinking about like aggressive items. No, it's going to be Architecture right away going into the Merc Treads. Just going to make some of these fights against Frez even that much more one-sided, as Frez is going to be basically tickling them.
And it's interesting that you bring that up because you would expect the Darius to go for something like the Phage when they have this much of a lead. That being said, a lot of Darius's power comes from his ability to stay on top of you and just stack those bleeds consistently. So upgrading to that tier 2 boots does mean that Darius is going to have an additional 45 movement speed to stay on top of Frez. And once that Frez charge goes down with no flash available, it could be all he needs to poke him out of lane entirely. So I don't hate the choice there from Architecture. I think it does provide a lot of value in that lane, but we'll have to see how the rest of the lane plays out. It looks like Frez has managed to kind of salvage a little bit of his lane here, holding on to some farm for the last little bit. But there's Def Ref committing the Orianna ulti. Yule turning it around with a big combo. There's the charge. There's the Ori ulti. The flash away. This is the outplay. Taking that kill with the Q. Yule really wanted a montage there. That's what that play was. He was looking for something to put in a video of his own. But unfortunately, Def Ref cleaning up that kill with the command ball command there at the end. Not going to happen for Yule today.
The shield coming off cooldown was definitely a heartbreaker. Oh my god, the damage on bot, and we do have Lil Frosty diving in between 2 turrets as well. Going to turn this around, a little over-aggressive, but a nice shield coming out there from Def Ref right on time. And down on bottom side, St. Clair living just barely by a thread. Lazzy's got to be careful. It's almost time for level 6 here. It's almost bullet time if they don't position themselves correctly. Yeah, they're just going to get out of dodge. Do not blame them in the slightest. Time to go back.
Danners, I'm not gonna lie, man. I've got my work cut out for me here on my first cast. It's like there's a fight top lane, then there's a dive mid lane, then there's a 2-man engage bot lane, and then all of a sudden they're doing it all over again. It's just non-stop go, go, go with these teams here.
Hey, this is what we like to see. I like to see constant action, but yet close and even. And this is kind of what we're getting. Of course, we do know that Toronto's in the lead, has the pressure on the St. Clair anyway. But of course, the looming timer, artificial timer of sorts on the side of Toronto. And this is just going to be a 1v1 coming out here from Architecture. Frez is going to get chunked. That extra dash might have been just a killing blow essentially onto him. As an extra auto attack, I think was all Architecture needed to get back and get that kill.
I mean, that was just a little unfortunate. I think Frez was just outside of the range of the Ram when he went to recast it. So what ended up happening is he kind of just bricked the dash and slapped his face right in front of Architecture, but wasn't able to follow up on anything. Here comes a perfect rotation from Yanspo onto that kill to secure the death on Def Ref here. Yule's going to be happy to take that kill home to the bank. Cash that in, work on finishing that proto belt. But I was going to talk about how these turret plates are going to become a factor in this game. I did mention before the game started that there was going to be some priority issues in the middle and bot lane. And as we can see already, both mid and bot have a 2-plate advantage for the side of UFT. Those plates, that's like 300 gold. That's basically a kill's worth of gold here just in turret plates alone. So these item advantages are going to start adding up as this game goes on. And with that priority comes easy dragon take. So that's a quick Mountain Drake for the Jarvan there solo. Now having finished his Cinderhawk, going to be a little beefier, going to be a little stronger moving into this end of laning phase.
Yeah, props to Lil Frosty going in there, snaking that dragon completely uncontested. Like you were saying, where St. Clair would probably just let it go for the next little bit, considering the team compositions. But the possible gank up top is a little bit overzealous, to say the least, if they opt to go for this. Not going to be the case. Lil Frosty is going to catch this engage here onto Yule, and this could be trouble. Yule does have the ulti from Lil Frosty, but is not going to be able to use it. Frosty catching Yule's over-aggression. Knew he was kind of bloodthirsty, and made him pay for it.
Yule did actually swing it around with the J4 ult there, trying to hold them in place and get himself some time to get out of dodge, but there's just too much lockdown with the J4 knock-up into the ulti, into the Orianna ult. He's just getting bounced around. It's pinball in the mid lane, unfortunately for Yule. And a flashless Sylas is a dead Sylas, and Toronto knows that, and they're taking advantage of that in this middle lane.
Yeah, Sylas is an interesting one, to say the least, as I look over onto Little Frosty's portrait and see that the Cataclysm is in fact still there. So it's like, okay, never mind, that wasn't UT's ulti at all. Still getting used to that part.
Yeah, I mean, Sylas just likes to mess with you a little bit, right? He likes to play games on you, and usually you're hoping that when you're picking the Sylas, the person you're confusing is the other team, not not your own production team back at home. But it does happen. For sure. And hopefully Yule, with this flash timer coming back up, might be able to find himself a little bit more ground in this mid lane. But it's going to take some time for sure for this St. Clair lineup to really get going. Thankfully, Lazzie's only down by about 10 CS here in the bottom lane. He's got the tier, he's got the sheen, and he's really going to be the win condition for this team. Like Ezreal, once they hit late game, Ezreal's pretty much the only damage in this game. Really, that late game consistent threat. So once these items start coming out, we might get to see Lazzi being a little bit more relevant on the map. But right now, he's just trying not to die, and we respect that.
Yeah, that top lane just looks absolutely brutal to deal with. Frez 2 levels down and counting. Amtrick trying to make something happen. Not going to find it right away. The ulti coming out from Constiff, but just about half HP taken care of on the side of Ryan the Kid, and that's going to be mid turret actually going down. Oh, Shelly came with the play.
The shield was committed by Frosty. He managed to take that away when Trick showed up on the bottom side. It looked like Trick was going in for a pretty hard dive on Ryan the Kid. They actually did manage to take away both the bullet time and the flash from the UFC carry, but not enough to take down that kill. And I think Toronto's going to be happy breaking down that mid wall. With an early game push team like Toronto's, taking down that mid tier 1 tower says a lot for how the rest of the game is going to go, because once you open up that mid tier 1, you get access to blue buff, you get access to red buff, and you can slowly start to starve out this St. Clair squad here with the way the map is looking. So it's going to have to take St. Clair getting some priority in their lanes, going for a hard push, and looking for an early group maybe earlier than they would like, to try to force down a plate of their own. Because if they can secure a little bit more space on the map for themselves, maybe even looking for a lane swap top lane, they might be able to get a little bit more ground back. But right now, it's just a slow game.
I definitely understand wanting to group, but at the same time, do you really want to try and force a team fight versus these guys right now? I feel like that would be a very, very scary attempt, unless you can catch them out of position and force an odd-numbered fight.
Unfortunately for St. Clair, the way this game's looking right now is it's going to have to be like the lesser of two evils is going to have to approach this. Because if Toronto starts looking for split push pressure on the side lanes, nobody can match this Darius right now, right? Nobody's going to be able to fight back that Darius. And the only way that you can punish that hard split push is by 5-manning in the opposite lane and doing what you can to force down some towers. And we've seen the ability that St. Clair has to make these picks with that Silas followed up with that Lilia, with the Bromstone on top. Of course, we saw it in the mid lane that Yule picked up that kill on Def Ref. And if we see more like that, that might be what it's going to take for St. Clair to get back into this game.
Now, we did see Def Ref, of course, come on down. We're going to see Yule try to match him, but if he's not careful and gets aggressive, he's going to meet Lil Frosty, who's sitting there waiting for backup as well as he starts to go into the St. Clair jungle. Seems like Yule is onto it. Might be looking to maybe poke him or something, but going to get away as this attack down bot is about to begin. 2v2 battle right by the St. Clair turret, and that's going to be the bullet time coming through. Some decent damage. Trick is here. The cavalry has arrived. Can Lassie and Mensfo stay safe enough to make this kill happen? That is a double sleepy time coming out here from St. Clair, and they're going to pick themselves up a double kill. One on to Lassie, one on to Trick. Not bad.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal rotation from Trick there. He was in the right place at the right time. And honestly, an interesting, more like questionable engage from UFC there. There really was no reason to force that fight, especially with the dragon spawning on the bottom side. They know that the jungler is going to be there to respond to that. So they kind of forced themselves into an awkward 2v3 when neither one of them really looked like they wanted to take that fight. Might have been a little bit of there, but here comes Def Ref following up on the kill with Little Frosty. That's 2 dead in the back line, but Yule stealing away the Orianna ult. That's a pickup back for them. They're gone to Frosty with the Ornn ult there. Yule's chasing over the wall. That's a double kill for Yule. And here comes the Nautilus running away on like, he's not going to get out of here very easily. With no ultimates available, they should just be able to continue this fight, but the Darius rotating in from the bot side might be enough to push the St. Clair squad off of this fight. Yule cleaning up that kill on the Nautilus. They're looking for a way out, but Architecture flashing over the wall. There's ultimate number 1. He's got another one available, but Yule dodging out of the way of the Darius Q, kiting away. Looks like he's going to get out of this one alive.
This is actually a little bit of an overextension possibly here from either one of these players. I'm not just sure who yet, but it's actually a huge shutdown going over to Trick. That is absolute best case scenario for St. Clair. Considering they were down so many kills, they've basically tied it up in that regard. Now they might have the opportunity to get ready for some additional objectives or just get the chance to go back. I was really worried when they were looking at that dragon that they were just going to trade away what they would have won down bot, with Lassie and Mensfo getting killed out, but Yule coming in with Trick and the rest of the squad, picking up a couple extra kills in the meantime as well, keeping them in the game.
And I mean, St. Clair was down like 6 or 7k gold before that fight broke out, and now they've closed the gap to like a 3k lead. And I mean, that should never happen. Like, that's just, I think it was honestly from Toronto, it just seemed like they didn't know how they wanted to play that. They weren't sure whether they wanted to commit to the fight. They knew they wanted the dragon, but they didn't know how they wanted it. You know, it's just a little messy. And I think St. Clair's happy to see that and pick up a couple kills for themselves.
Especially right near the very end there, where we know that Architecture is the absolute fiend right now on the side of University of Toronto. And he just kept moving forward. The rest of his team was absolutely not on the same page. Like half HP trying to chase down 3 members of St. Clair. It's like, I know you're ahead, but this is a bad time. This is where the question mark pings start coming out on the side of University of Toronto. And some free shutdown gold going over into the hands of St. Clair. If they have to just survive a little bit longer, all these extra eliminations are definitely going to help.
Add a couple question mark pings of my own. Build on the side. I hate the double phage build. I'm sorry if you're a fan, you're in the Twitch chat right now, and you like this Black Cleaver Trinity Force style of play. It's just so much. It's so excessive. But here comes another fight up in the top side here. Little Frosty committing with the flag and dry, gets the stun up onto Trick. The bullet time committed over the wall. There's the pick off. Frez is bleeding out, or Yule rather, is bleeding out on the top side. Miansfo getting picked off here. That's 3 down for St. Clair. And after a phenomenal fight on the Dragon Pit, it looks like it's just swinging right back the other way. The pendulum just doesn't stop going back and forth in this game.
Gosh, just pressure everywhere right now for University of Toronto, finding the kind of fights that they are looking for. I mean, if Architecture wants to go in, if you're taking on like a splitted off St. Clair member, like all by himself, by all means, just take him down. As Yule tried his best, but could not make a real good dent into him. And his Frez is actually in trouble as well. Mid tower's in trouble as Shelly gets a final shot there onto that one. And a lot of these objectives here are falling on the side of St. Clair. Tower after tower going down. St. Clair currently not taking down a tower themselves. They just got to hang on for dear life. This gold differential is looking pretty brutal. But with time, they might be able to get themselves back into this.
Yeah, and I mean, this is exactly how UFC wants to play this. They start taking down towers, and then they live in that bottom side jungle. Trick getting up that first kill up onto Constant. There, ultimate from Frez, catching Ryan on the chase. Can they proc the stun? Miensfo with the Q from long, far away, gets the slow off, gets the stun. Can they clean him up? But Ryan the Kid happy to just run away out of that one. Trick looking for a further initiation, but they're going to have to back off. There comes the bullet time.
Oh my goodness.
Committed on top of the Orianna ulti. Are they going to be able to get a kill back for themselves? Yule picking up that kill on the side. Lazi looking for a deep engage here. There's the knock up. There's the kill down onto Ryan the Kid. Oran's going to fall here now too, and this is just going to be the ace for Toronto, a triple kill for DefRef, and just an absolute slaughter for University of Toronto.
Oh dear, it all seems rather even until I looked over to the right and realized that shockwave was just about to come back off cooldown. And sure enough, DefRef making the communication over to Frosty to just go. Just jump in. You might go down, but we're going to do some really good damage. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Now DefRef sitting with 6 eliminations so far in this game, tying the current top of Architecture. And this, I don't know if there is going to be enough time that can put St. Clair back into this at this point. 10k gold lead on the side of University of Toronto. And University of Toronto is basically doing exactly what they have to do. They've basically taken everything.
I mean, I want to agree with you, Danners, but I think there's still space in this game. Like, it looks pretty doomed, but we've seen a lot of the engages from Toronto, and there's always space to come back when you see kind of sloppy initiations like that. It's interesting watching this game. It seems like St. Clair has like better trust and communication between their teammates, but Toronto has just a better sense of what they want to do with the game and how to execute on their strategy. Like, they focused top at the beginning so that Darius could turn into this 1-4 powerhouse where he can split on the side of the map and he doesn't need to group, right? They gave him the ability to do that by giving him that lead early. Whereas Trick was kind of in this space where he was like farming, but he wanted to be relevant on the bottom side of the map, but he wasn't, like, he was kind of just like playing a very slow game, where Frosty was just taking advantage of all that open space on the map and doing what he needed to do to give his team the lead that they needed. But Lazi getting a little greedy for that ward kill here, actually getting caught up by the Nautilus hook, does manage to jump over the wall, Constant flashing out with that needy ram, cleaning up that Nautilus kill. Yule's just going to duke it out there with Frosty in the mid lane. Here comes Architecture getting stunned out. Might be the pickoff here, but a massive bullet time coming in the back line. Frosty's running away on 3 health, flashes away from Trick's W, but there comes the Orianna ultimate. That's a triple ult there. Another cleanup in the back. Yule's looking for more. Lazi's looking for more in the back. There's the hard commit there. The triple kill. Lazi, but little Frosty managing to get away by the skin of his teeth. Yule's not going to let him get out of this one for free, though. There's the chase. The Q execute actually popping for a significant amount of damage. And there, Danners, this is what I'm talking about. St. Clair's still in this.
Okay, so gift wrap a team fight and hand it over to St. Clair like that. I mean, there was 3 members of the side of the University of Toronto just kind of hovering the bush, the other 2 just kind of away, and then everybody else was on St. Clair's side was just grouped up, ready to go. Sure, I don't care how far ahead you are, a 3v5 is not a good idea. This could be scary actually for Yule, though. This might be a bit of a pain. He's going to try and go for it. Thankfully secures it and actually finds Constant in the same time as Frez comes in at the perfect time. That could have been bad. Imagine if Constant stole that. That would have been huge.
Honestly, Christmas came early for this St. Clair squad here. Constant is just, he's feeling extra generous this year, and he's got gifts for the whole team. There's no other way to look at that, really. I mean, I know he wanted to put some pressure on the Dragon, but with that TP coming in on the back from Fred, I think they had vision on the bush. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check that after the game. But once that TP comes down, you've got to get out of there. And unfortunately, the Nautilus does get picked off and gives the St. Clair squad some time to set up and secure some vision around this Baron. Securing that Scuttle Crab right in front of the Baron means that no funny business from UFT for the next little while they have vision on that pit.
I mean, if Constith would have got that, he would have been the hero, because that would have then meant Soul Point would have been on the next dragon, right? So it was
a hero play. It was absolutely a hero play. Everybody's looking for a montage today, Tanners.
Everyone's looking for a way to get into the clip.
You got them jealous after putting Frez up on the big screen. Now everybody wants the boost. You'll taking a risky engage here on the bottom side, whiffing the chain and getting blown up immediately by these two powerhouses on the side of UFT. That's going to be a quick and easy kill, followed up by an even quicker and easier tower. And UFT is going to be able to turn this wave pressure into a Baron probably within the next minute or so. We'll likely see a rotation up to the top side now that this wave is going to be a constant threat on the bottom side of St. Clair's inhibitor here.
St. Clair showing signs of life, but then a play or two goes the wrong direction, and with a lead like the University of Toronto has, it probably only takes one or two mistakes, and we might see another one here. Trick getting picked out by Lil Frosty, going to Zanya's for the time being, but it does not matter. Chopping up poor Trick, as they're going to take that kill and run.
I mean, right now it kind of just looks like everyone's trying to throw a little bit. We got another fight here. Yule TPing in, looking for that kill on Architecture, but gets hit around with the turnaround shockwave. Frosty with the double kill. Lassie does manage to clean up the stun there, so there's going to be no more initiation. But it's going to just be a Baron here, I believe, for UFT. But yeah, both teams taking some very risky initiations, kind of just like throwing up their hands and going for Hail Marys back to back to back. I think they have the time to slow it down a little bit. Either side really doesn't need to be this aggressive, but I mean, this is the choice they're making. And this is the result we're seeing. And for us, you know, getting to watch it, we get a lot of action here. There's the Ornn ulti getting committed by Frez. Doesn't manage to secure a whole lot there. Actually getting blown up on the side here. He's probably going to be able to force them off of the Baron, which is likely what he was aiming to do. So well done there from Frez, but unfortunately does drop another kill to UFT. And both teams are just going to take the reset here. But yeah, lots of, quite frankly, unnecessary fighting in this game.
Yeah, that Yule engage there looked like the kind of thing I would see in my bronze to silver promos. I'm not going to lie. Like, I don't know what you were trying to do there. Yes, you have damage. You have a lot of damage. But that is some tanky squad. Those are some tanky members on the side of University of Toronto. Even if you had Lassie with you, that was very, very overzealous.
Oh my god, that was shameless. That was absolutely shameless. I don't know if I'd ever put it into words like that. Definitely a questionable initiation, to say the least. You know what? I'm kind of curious.
Man, I'm sorry.
One of your bronze to silver promo games, Anders. They seem like quite a hoot to watch.
Oh my goodness!
But there's the shockwave getting committed from DefRef, looking for the cheeky kill, but Lozzy with the trigger finger onto that E, managing to arcane shift his way out of there before it was too late. And now DefRef's just going to be happy to wait for that shockwave cooldown. I'm watching that timer tick down, and it's almost back up already. Like, that's insane, that shockwave cooldown right now.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, by no means was I calling Yule a bronzy or something like that. There's a reason why behind the commentary desk, and he's out here like trying to compete here with the actual varsity team itself, right? You just tell his bloodthirsty nature coming out in his play style, which can sometimes bite you in the butt.
Absolutely. And I mean, we love to see it because it's a lot of fun to watch for sure, especially when it works. Looks like UFT is trying to pull a page right out of Fnatic's playbook here with the Fnatic gank. But St. Clair's, you know, they don't want anything to do with the bottom side right now. They don't care about it. It's the Baron's problem. But Frez looking like might not be in the best position that he wants to be in. But St. Clair's going to just take the turn onto this Baron here. And I think they're happy with that. Actually, the Orianna TP getting committed, going up top side. Frez
is scary now.
Alive. St. Clair's going to have to get off this Baron, though. They're not going to be able to finish it in time. Architecture with the flash in. He does get stunned out. Lozzy finds himself in a good position in the backline, able to do a ton of damage here. There goes the kill onto Miensko, but Lozzy getting flanked, actually, by the Nautilus ulti. There goes the bullet time, and they're just dropping like fries. Frez is going to go down here. Trick is going to go down as well, and that's the team wipe for UFT. They're going to take the Baron and transition this into some towers. Really, really dangerous looking fight here, now at the 28-minute mark.
Yeah, unfortunately there for St. Clair, that Baron is quite beefy as well. They have some damage, but still takes some time. They probably didn't even need to blow the teleport from Defref to get back there and probably shut that down. And even still, after all this time, University of Toronto's team fight, in general, they're just doing so much more damage right now compared to St. Clair. It did not help that Lassie did get flanked in that situation. Like, getting him out of dodge nice and quick, taking off a big piece of damage, or a priority damage target from St. Clair, taking them out of there nice and quick. And that could be the play that just breaks this game and will eventually break the Nexus at this point. One more Dragon possibly on the table here. Frosty going to pick that up more than likely, and we'll probably see them shove a lane and see what they can do to finish us.
Yeah, I really did like the obvious positioning at the beginning of that team fight, but honestly, I completely forgot about the flank coming from the bottom side, and it was just unfortunate. It started off really strong, and all of a sudden there were 3 champions on top of it. So hopefully if we can find Lazi getting himself set up slightly better for the next team fight, I'm sure things would go very differently. Like, he was able to do a lot of damage at the beginning, but once they lost that Ezreal, everything else kind of just fell apart.
Absolutely. Now with you have Toronto looking like they're going to gather towards mid and just let Architecture hang down bot. Of course, nobody still wants to deal with them. This turret's already pretty much dead, so they're going to get this inhibitor for pretty much free at this point. St. Clair's not going to be able to stop this push in the slightest. So, inhib down. Either push over towards bot, meet up with Architecture, or we'll see them take the top side. Looks like bot's going to be the answer.
And I mean, one thing to think about here is now that Ornn's hitting that level 15 mark, these Ornn upgraded items are starting to come out for St. Clair's squad. They do have the double hourglass there finished. The ulti does get committed here onto Constant, but I think Toronto's just going to be able to walk away from this. Frosty's actually looking for the turnaround engage, but doesn't manage to find it there. And I suspect it's just going to be the reset here. They've got their 2 inhibitors. They're happy with what they've taken. But it looks like they want a little more, actually. Yule stepping up a little bit, taking a big chunk of damage there. But there's
this is it.
From Frez. Great look onto that. The reverse bullet time from Yule, but does actually get knocked up by Frosty. Not able to clean up any kills. Lazi does get 1. Architecture here taking a ton of damage in the front, but getting a lot of reverse healing as well. But look at Lazi in the back. Look at all the damage he's doing there. He's got the turnaround here onto Defraf. He's got to keep his positioning tight, though. This Orianna does a ton of damage at close. And it's just pokes back and forth. There's Lazi with the hard commit there. One more Q should do it.
The minions!
Poked up by the minions! Oh no, and Architecture gets the Q spin down. And that's going to be the Nexus, I think, for Toronto there. Just going to do a little bit more damage to Frez to buy some time for these minions as they crash down on that Nexus. But Frez getting cleaned up by the bleed. Frosty's not wasting any time. He's just smacking away at that base. Def Ref with the BM ulti onto the minions there. And that's going to be game 1 for UFC.
That was definitely a tough one for the side of St. Clair. Just they needed to hang on to their pants for pretty much that entire 20-minute section, and they dang well tried. They kept it close on kills, but you can see everywhere else on the board, University of Toronto was just dominating. Definitely showing why they are tied for first right now in the OPSE in general. But of course, this is a best of 3, so if I'm St. Clair right now, I see the kind of composition that University of Toronto is going for. Assuming that they go for something similar, am I banning something in particular, or am I completely changing my team comp? Is there any sort of strategy that you can think of?
Honestly, I think that game was winnable. If I'm being honest, I think it was very winnable. I think both teams threw the game quite significantly at certain points in the game where they had a lead and they kind of just dumped it away. We saw it with UFT at that Dragon fight. We saw it from St. Clair in that topside engage, and a number of kind of just like random pickoffs on the map where it looked like people were kind of overestimating how much strength they had. I think that game could have gone very differently if certain decisions at certain moments had just been made differently or not made at all. So I don't necessarily think there was a composition difference. Obviously, early game versus late game. We see it a lot, especially at the amateur level. The early game comps typically seem to be favored because they can transition that lead into something more dangerous later on. But there's nothing wrong with a turtle comp if you execute it properly. So I'm hopeful for St. Clair moving into game 2, and I know that they can show us a little bit more closer to what we've seen from them previously in this season.
Absolutely. Now, it looks like we're going to be taking a very quick break as we get ready to set up game number 2. University of Toronto in the lead. Can we see St. Clair bring this back? Stay tuned to find out. If you have not done so already, be sure to follow us here on the Saints Gaming CA Twitch channel, as there is plenty more action where that came from. Starting tomorrow, we do have second to last game here for the NACE Overwatch season as we go up against Northwood University, currently sitting first in our NACE group. Should be a tough one, but we'll see how the Saints can get out of there. Now on Friday, UCA CSGO continues with a match. Then on Saturday, more League of Legends action as we've been invited to the Drury Esports Invitational. That'll be going throughout most of Saturday. On Sunday at 7, Call of Duty Modern Warfare returns, more TESPA action. After a very fantastic start to their season, getting themselves a quick 2-0 in the league. Can they keep that up? We'll have to see. Then Monday, the last match in the NACE Overwatch season, up against Alma. Currently shown at the bottom. In theory, should be a W for the Saints, but of course anything can happen. Make sure you follow and tune in. If you cannot catch it live, be sure to check out the Twitch past broadcasts or follow our gigantic YouTube VOD archive. Saints Gaming CA there as well. Stick around, Game 2 just about to get underway.
Welcome back, everybody, to the start of game number 2, St. Clair Saints versus the University of Toronto. We are getting started here with this champion draft, right on the pro drafts as we saw in the previous game. The bans have already come out for both teams, and we're starting to see the first couple picks here. I believe University of Toronto is now on the blue side, if I understand that correctly. So the Twisted Fate getting picked up for UFT here. Right at the beginning, we talked about how, during the last game, about how prevalent this Twisted Fate pick has been in the professional scene. And it's going to be really exciting to see how it plays out here at the collegiate level. The Silas counter pick coming out. We saw Caps pull it in the Gen G versus G2 series with the ability to steal those ultimates and match those roams. So St. Clair already kind of coming out with a little bit of funny business here before the game even gets going.
And I mean, we saw Yul try and take the reins of the Silas last game, and to mixed success. Sometimes a little overextension, but sometimes nearly getting himself some outplays. But now we do have the Callista coming out from Lassie. I know this was something they were starting to work on near the very tail end of the preseason. Might have fixed that up a bit. And of course, you're mentioning the Twisted Fate. There's no other champion quite like TF in terms of trying to just snowball everybody. Get into as many plays as possible. And then we get one of my personal favorites, Swain, coming out here on the side of University of Toronto, and is the new champion going to come out by chance?
The Fate Swain provides just so much global presence. Like Swain with the ability to use that W from ridiculously long range gives you great vision of the enemy jungle. With the Twisted Fate ultimate, obviously providing you global vision and the ability to rotate. Definitely a lot of ways for this Toronto lineup to put pressure down from a very far distance and kind of exert themselves across the map, even in situations where it doesn't necessarily look like they have priority on the roam. But it looks like St. Clair's kind of got the right idea here, looking to respond with that Pantheon to match that global pressure. If Silas manages to steal away that TF ult and Pantheon gets a good ultimate down, all of a sudden St. Clair's doing UFT's draft better. And that might just be exactly what they need to kind of swing this early game around. I like that Pantheon pick because it's so much more aggressive than the Braum in the previous draft. And I think this is exactly what St. Clair needs to do to get themselves a little bit more ground in this game number 2.
Oh, why did it not dawn on me that Silas could just take the teleport as well? Like, that's actually kind of cool, but at the same time, you kind of got to assume when he's going in, because you don't get to hang on to that ultimate forever. And then this blank ban coming out on the side of St. Clair is actually a Darius ban. We're not going to get to see Architecture run away on that champion again.
I think after Frez experienced that lane in game number 1, I don't think he wants to do it again in number 2.
I don't blame him in the slightest.
I'm not going to lie, Danners. I've been playing League for like 7 years, and I still hate laning against Darius. It's not impossible, but it's just so draining. It's so mentally exhausting. And the rest of these bans make a lot of sense from these teams. This Camille ban getting banned away by St. Clair, actually interesting. Here on the club team, we talk a lot about Frez's Camille. In our scrims, we've always banned it away from him just to keep him off his one trick. But it's funny to see St. Clair actually banning it away themselves, and UFT responding with the Malphite and the Ornn ban, trying to take away some of these heavy tanks from St. Clair. And then, of course, Frez, nothing left to do but Shen duty. is exactly what we expect here. The Shen, the Pantheon, and the Silas with the ability to steal the TF ult. I mean, St. Clair is going to be everywhere at once.
I mean, this is going to be an execution-heavy composition, however, though, for St. Clair, because, of course, you can have all the teleports in the world, but can you actually get there at the right time? So, will be interesting to see. The support still yet to be picked on the side of St. Clair. And this team composition on the side of University of Toronto is having my head hurt. Like, what on earth are we looking at here? We don't have a... Is Samira AD carry? Like, I'm going to call myself out. Is she an AD carry?
It's tricky. TF is mid. We know where everyone's going. Twisted Fate mid, Swain support with Samira AD carry, Hecarim in the jungle, and GP top. But this is actually an interesting pick from St. Clair because now we've got 2 flex picks we're looking at. Typically, the Pantheon, we see it as the support, which is likely where we're going to see the Pantheon in this game, which means it would actually be the Shen in the jungle.
Right.
It could go the other way around, of course, but I suspect the Silas is going mid. For the side of St. Clair. But more interesting to me than the flex picks is actually kind of like what the comps are trying to do. And with the St. Clair draft, now that they've moved the Shen to the jungle, it looks like they're trying to set themselves up for more of like a 1-4 comp, where you have the Gnar split pushing on the side and trying to set himself up for these team fights, rather than what you would expect, which would be having like the Shen split pushing with the ability to global ulti.
Right.
They're not going to be able to execute on that split push as nicely and cleanly as they would like to now with that Gnar pick going top. And UFT's draft is just even more all over the place. They've got the slow-paced Gangplank, the early game tempo Twisted Fate with the Hecarim, the mid-game cleanup assassin on the Samira. I think it's going to be just a very bot-focused game from UFT in this game. There's going to be a lot of pressure put onto Mansfu and Blazi in this game, so they're definitely going to have to play their laning phase a little differently than they'd like. But yeah, I'm going to be honest, Anders, I don't know what to make of this.
Gosh, how long has it been since I've seen a Hecarim top lane? Like, this is weird to me, man. I haven't seen some of this stuff since he, like, got released. And then, of course,
oh boy.
River Shen, of course, coming out here from Trick. And then with, for Gnar, this is something I think, from what I was told, that they were just picking up. What is happening?
Okay. So, okay.
I'm just going to shut myself up for a second. What on earth is this composition, and what TF jungle?
I'm wondering, Danners, if they're actually just going to be swapping roles full out for this game. Like if Architecture is just going to be playing jungle. I don't know what the rules are here for OPSE as far as how the players queue up in their lanes, because Architecture is obviously their starting top laner.
Right.
But I can't imagine a situation where Twisted Fate goes jungle and Hecarim goes top. The GP mid works. I'm with you there. Okay?
Right.
I'm with you there. But the Twisted Fate jungle and the Hecarim top just looks a little too goofy for me to get on board with. I'm suspecting that they're either going to swap the picks or they're going to switch lanes entirely. Because if this is how they're trying to roll with it, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, Dan. My hands are in the air.
So either they're just going to make my life a little bit more difficult here on the production side of things, knowing that we're not in LCS order, but it is what it is. Either way, though, I feel like we are going to have one heck of a brawl on our hands between these teams. Of course, like Prez's Gnar, this is something that's just been coming out in the last couple of scrims from what I was told. We've seen Trick bring out the River Shen in the last matchup versus Fanshawe and was very successful at it. Probably the second or third time we've seen Lazzie's Kalista, Mansfu on Pantheon, and then the Silas, I think, is something just kind of new to us seeing on Yule for this matchup specifically. So we quickly throw it back over to us. But it's going to be a crazy one. I'm really curious if they're going to try something really cheeky with Little Frosty, or if this is just them sitting in the wrong spots and playing different roles. But if this actually ends up being Hecarim top and TF jungle, I am going to be absolutely mind blown.
Here's the good news for St. Clair. If it is Twisted Fate jungle, and it's been done before, so let's get that out of the way. It has been done before. The way they have their comp lined up, it's possible. is it good? That's almost a hard no from me. And I think the reason for that is because Twisted Fate's clear time is just way too slow in the way that this meta is. That being said, they're facing off against the Shen, right? And the Shen doesn't have a particularly exceptional clear time either. So I think what this game is going to come down to is the mid lane matchup. Because if Yule manages to secure that priority and give Trick the ability to roam wherever he pleases, if they can get some nice invades and take Frosty out of the game during the early game, the bot lane has the win, right? The Kalista Pantheon is just so much damage. And even though Swain is such an abusive threat in lane, especially at that level 6 power spike, before level 6, he's just a stun bot. And
Right.
stun bot with not too much health to boot. So getting stun locked by the Pantheon into the Kalista, into a Shen taunt it's just an easy kill bot. So I'm curious to see how they play this out. But I'm feeling pretty good. If I'm saying Clair right now, I'm feeling pretty good looking at this potentially Twisted Fate jungle coming up from UFT.
And another thing I'm interested in, this is the first time we're seeing Samira in competitive collegiate, at least for me personally. So I am definitely not quickly looking up abilities right now, trying to figure out what in the world she actually does. I didn't know she was legal, to be completely frank with you. But should be interesting, of course, being an assassin-styled character. I'm sure you can break that down a little further, right?
For all the viewers back at home, if you're not familiar with the new champion and how she works, Samira does everything, and she does everything very well. She has innate knock-up in her passive. Her passive actually it's threefold. She builds up style as she hits you in different ways. She has the ability to switch between ranged and melee attacks, and she has a follow-up knock-up anytime a champion that she's attacking has been immobilized. So if Pantheon stuns someone and Samira right-clicks them, she'll knock them up as well. So she does a ton with just her passive to boot. Her Q is just spam damage. Her W is like a wind wall, like a Yasuo wind wall that follows her.
Okay.
Her E is a dash that resets on kills, and her ultimate is just crazy. It's just guns and bullets and knives and swords everywhere in all directions at once. She's a lot of fun to watch. So I'm kind of excited to see how Ryan the Kid pilots her in this game.
Now the ultimate, is that more like a Katarina, like Death Lotus kind of style thing?
You can compare it to that. Yeah, it definitely looks like Death Lotus. However, she does have the ability to move while she's casting it. And more interestingly is that her ultimate actually has no cooldown. Samira can cast her ultimate every time she builds up to rank S in her style, which is done by attacking, I believe, in 6 different ways. So, for example, if you dash, melee auto, ranged auto, Q, melee Q, W, all of a sudden you're fully charged in your style, and you can start mashing that R key and doing some damage. So definitely takes a very mechanically intense champion. So I'm really curious to see how Ryan the Kid plays it out. But we are getting started in our game. The champions have spawned. We're out of the base. And UFT is going for a real cheeky rush up the top side here. Likely going to be looking for a punish on Frez, who is going to be establishing himself in this 5-point start that we saw last game as well.
Of course, to put it to bed, there is no Twisted Fate jungle this time. It's just going to be Little Frosty taking the mid row. Oh no, Frez. They, in fact, are going to find him. He's going to hop away. So good thing he didn't take an ability until yet. But why did you move back, however? Ping, ping. Question mark, question mark. What on earth? That's going to be First Blood Toronto.
That's tough to watch, and that's just unfortunate, really. I mean, it's good. It's a good habit to not train an ability before you get to lane. I was going to say before the death drop that, at least he didn't die, but he has to lane without Q. But now, not only does he have to lane without Q, he also died. So Frez really off to a rough start here at the beginning of that game. But yeah, I assumed that they were just going to go standard lanes with the Twisted Fate in the mid lane. And we do have that switched up on the side. Thank you, Danis, for doing that. But we do actually have an Ignite on the Twisted Fate, which is quite aggressive. Typically, you see Twisted Fates taking teleport for extra mobility. But Frosty, really feeling himself in this mid lane matchup. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
Absolutely. And hello, Constance. What are you doing from support all the way up to the top here? Everybody's switching up, apparently. Frey's going to be taken down half over to basically a quarter HP before he even makes it to his first minion. Oh boy, this could be trouble.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that. I actually didn't notice that the lane swap, but look here in the bottom lane.
Okay.
And that's exactly what I was talking about, is that this lane, this Swain, he provides so much pressure, but there's nothing you can do about this Pantheon. That stun, just setting up for that Callista, letting those spears get racked up, like, that's just such a nice, clean kill from the St. Clair duo. Very well played. Unfortunately for Frez on the top side, he's not going to be very happy with how this lane is going. But it's going to have to be looking towards this bot side for St. Clair to really see how they can push themselves farther into this game, putting that pressure down into Lazi.
Gosh, poor Frez. He's probably going to be just a body for a good while here in this lane. Concept going to just keep harassing him down. We can see right now 11-5, and this is only just the beginning of the lane phase. It's only going to get crazier from here, I'm sure. GP, Gangplank, sometimes hard to deal with to begin with, let alone after such a lead. We do see a setup here. Yule getting aggressive, and Hello Mansfu comes right in and finishes the job.
That was just so clean. And I love seeing plays like that. That's a very impressive rotation from St. Clair here. Architecture looking like he's going to go for an initiation, but actually just pulling Trick back. Yule in, does manage to get the kill for Trick, but Yule does go down there, committing that flash, losing those Dark Seal stacks, probably not very happy about that. Frez getting bullied in this lane here up against the Gangplank. But yeah, these comps, like, this rotations from Mansfu are just so beautiful to watch. Like, that flash over the Raptor wall is exactly how you need to play the Pantheon matchup. You concede priority in the bottom lane. It's hard to get it anyways with the Callista, and you use instead your ability to roam to secure as many kills as you can. Here comes Trick down on the bottom side. Ryan the Kid with no flash available.
They're turning this.
Decent turn here. There's a one kill there. There's two. Lazi does manage to pick up the kill. He's probably going to get the second one here onto Death Ref, but St. Clair with that three-man gang, looking like they probably wanted that to go a little differently than it did. But a 2-for-2 trade down on the bottom side.
Calculated. They got this all in so they could just make Lazi a monster, right? Right? That's exactly why the gank went that way. Yes, of course. 3-0 right now onto Lazi. So early into this game, that's going to be beautiful. It was basically keeping even in terms of CS as well. But, of course, you're throwing 2 kills over to the side of University of Toronto as well with that the way that gank happened. But not too bad. Pretty well even. Of course, top lane's going to be a little bit sore, but it seems like everywhere else we're keeping even. Mansfu with another gank. Yule's going to be right on top of things, forcing the flash. Frosty going to lose about half of his HP.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you're making jokes, but I actually agree with what you said for the most part.
There's a little truth behind it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a little truth behind every joke. And I think Lazi getting these kills is actually really big for him. He's already got the Berserker Greaves finished, and the Berserker Greaves on the AD carry, especially on the Callista, means increased dash length on every attack. That's kind of how Callista's passive works, is as those boots upgrade in tier, her ability to jump around and hop around increases as well, which means there's going to be a lot more pressure coming off from this bot lane. The double buff secured as well. Like, I think St. Clair is pretty happy with how this game is going. Even though it's not flawless, I think they're enjoying what they have, and they're happy to keep pushing that pressure.
It's very scrappy, which is definitely entertaining for us here to watch. That's for sure, and of course with that extra attack speed as well, there's even more spears for Lassie to try and rend out after the fact for some execution damage. So overall, not too bad. Mansfu taking a good chunk of damage, though, all the way down the halfway after a little bit of an off mini-engage there, a good poke, rather, from the side of University of Toronto. Lassie getting caught out, however, they line them up, and unfortunately, that is going to be a double going down to the bot lane of University of Toronto. That looked awkward, to say the least, on the side of St. Clair. Just line them up, Swain getting a bunch of damage, and then Ryan the Kid able to clean up. We have some more engagements happening. Little Frosty and Yule duking it out. Yule does have his ulti if he wants to fire it away, but it's not going to happen. Did not have an ultimate ready to go. Trick now kind of trapped. It's going to be going down. What on earth is happening? Why are so many of St. Clair's members in awkward positions in this point? And we're just going to keep it going. Frez is probably going to burn down. Just barely actually going to hang on to that one. That was a rough minute for St. Clair.
Yeah, I mean, that bot lane engage was just Samira doing Samira things. You catch the target with the Swain claw. So you start off with the claw. As you pull the claw and you get that that pullback, that immobilizes. So Samira's passive is now triggered. So you have a root into a pullback, into a knockup, into just a triple burst combo. Like, bot lane just died. Like, I don't even know how to tell you what happened. They were 1 second they were there, and the next second they weren't. And that's just crazy amounts of damage coming out from Samira. Only with the Caulfield's Warhammer completed, the ability to burst like that is just insane to me. But Architecture positioning himself on this bottom side might be looking to punish this lack of cleanse and flash down on the bottom side here. He is setting himself up for a gank with the ultimate here. Thankfully, Yule does have priority in lane, so it's not the Twisted Fate will not be joining them on this initiation. But St. Clair's better have their spidey senses ready for
Here
this.
It comes.
There goes the Hecarim ulti. The stun comes out, and St. Clair actually does manage to turn this around a little bit. The teleport getting committed by Yule on the backline might look for a counter initiation here. There's the Hecarim ult steal immediately with Trick on the follow-up ulti. The Hecarim goes down. The Swain is soon to follow. That's a double kill straight back for St. Clair. 2 for 1 in that bot lane. That's a really clean combo there with the Shen ulti onto the teleport. I like the way they executed that.
It was very nicely done and solid there for Yule to steal the ulti. Speaking of ultis, that's going to be Frez shoving Constant into the wall, but even still, just so far behind, is not packing much of a punch. Frosty shows up to play, and Frez is going to get caught getting a little bit too over-aggressive. And that's a second shutdown going over into the favor of Lassie within the last 30 seconds. He's going to be an absolute beast as this game goes on.
Yeah, this game is in Lassie's hands. Like, just looking at this game, I mean, looking at the compositions in general, Lassie is pretty much the only late-game damage that the St. Clair lineup provides. But the game is entirely in his hands right now. And it's his game to lose. Up in that top lane, though, Frez taking an aggressive play, knowing that the Twisted Fate had the ultimate available. Gonna get punished for that for sure. But this mid-lane matchup is actually going pretty okay. The Twisted Fate does have the range advantage, obviously, but Yule is managing to provide a lot of value for his team with that teleport summoner and with those ultimate steals. There's a lot of really good ultimates for him to steal in this game. So as these start grouping up in the mid game and we start seeing these full-on 5v5s, this Silas is going to mean a lot for St. Clair's draft for sure.
Yeah, being able to snag the Hecarim ulti and just turn yourself into a massive engaged threat, even though he completely traded his life for it. At least in that bot lane gank, he was able to put Lassie so much further ahead, and he still manages to get himself 3 assists on the play. So, sacrifice yourself, but still get a decent amount of gold for yourself and the team. Worth.
If you're St. Clair right now, if you're on the St. Clair team and your name isn't Lassie, you will die for literally anything to keep that man alive.
Absolutely.
Like, Lassie is the entire team right now. And I can't imagine a thankfully for Lassie, he's got 4 beefy bruisers that are happy to just tank shots and jump in front of bullets for him. So he's going to be really happy moving into this mid game as well. We actually see Trick posturing himself for the dive here. And I didn't actually see who Lassie bound himself to at the beginning of this game. I assume it was Mianspo. Actually looking at it now, that it was onto the Pantheon. But they could have actually gone for a Black Spear bind onto the Shen for when the Shen roams to get that ultimate onto the slightly tankier Shen. But UFT going in for the initiation here, not knowing that the Shen is in the brush. Lassie is going to be happy to turn that one around. There's the ultimate steal from Yule, becoming the Twisted Fate. They're forcing the flash out of Ryan the Kid, and they're going to be happy to take down this wave and get a little bit more damage onto that tower before these turret plates expire. They've got 3 minutes left of tower slapping, and nobody in this bot lane left to defend it. So Lost is going to pick up a ton of gold for himself here with these turret plates.
Yeah, get around to get ready for Dragon, and who would have thought that it would have been the protection and security student who's going to be the one needing the protection. Meanwhile, that was a bit of an over-aggressive play here from Mule and from Mianspo as he tries to make a play and just completely passes that one over gift wrap style.
Yeah, it's just... Danners. Danners. I mean, you watch these plays and you're like, oh man, this St. Clair squad, like, these guys are so well coordinated. These ganks are insane. These rotations are flawless. and then there's that, right? And I mean, I think a lot of it is just like beginning of season jitters. If I'm being honest, I think as the season goes on, we're gonna see less of those plays. But that Yule just walking into lane like that was just a little too confident, I'd say, to say the least, really. And Miansko trying to do the noble thing and avenge his teammate. Unfortunately, doesn't work out as planned either. And it's just going to be a quick over 2 trade.
You can take the player out of solo queue, but you can't take the solo queue out of the player. Was that kind of play? That was a little bit awkward.
Beautifully said. Can I get that on a t-shirt?
Probably.
That's wonderful.
Acquire, get on it. Now, add it to our list. And snag a jersey while you're at it too.
Moving into this mid game, it's going to be interesting to see how these teams prioritize that second Herald. Actually, both games, UFT managed to kind of sneak away the first Herald without you or I even catching it. They always do it right at that awkward time where there's like 3 fights happening at once, and all of a sudden the Herald's gone. But I think the second Herald is going to mean a lot, and I think St. Clair is actually in a position this game where they could reasonably look for the second Herald. There comes the Callista ultimate onto Death Ref. That's going to be a quick and easy rend, and another clean kill picked up for Lozzy. These kills probably aren't worth very much gold for him anymore. I can't imagine he's making a ton of money off this. Frez in a dangerous situation. He's just going to get gold carded and picked off there, and Lozzy slamming away at this tower in the bottom side. Going to have to be kind of bracing a little bit. Top towers on 3 plates, mid towers on 2 plates, but the bot tower for UFT I think is on 2 plates as well. Yule getting some plates in the mid lane. Just plates are falling everywhere. It's a lot of gold.
Well, this is already so much better as we see another engage. Ryan the Kid going to get himself caught out. Mansfu going to barely hang on to his life. The GBLT coming down as well. Ryan the Kid trying to make something happen. Not going to happen, however. So more and more eliminations going into the favor of St. Clair in regards to Lozzy popping off. And sure, they might be bullying Frez up there in the top lane, but he can slowly but surely just farm his way up, hopefully, and get himself to just be an absolute beast with a fantastic ultimate. Eat somebody into a wall or something, and you've done your job. And protect Lozzy as much as possible. And some of this positioning coming up from UFT, it better be a bait, otherwise this is going to be awkward. So you see Mansfield hanging on for dear life. This is going to be Trick coming in for the save. It's going to be successful as another shutdown going into the favor of Lozzy. Oh my gosh, we're not even 15 minutes in and he almost has 10 kills.
It's not even 15 minutes in, and there's almost double that many kills in the game, Danners. There's 25 kills in 14 minutes right now.
Holy
this
smokes.
Is solo queue at its finest, for sure. And what I'm seeing in this game is kind of hard to describe. It kind of feels like both teams just forgot what champions are on the map. Because we're seeing initiations top when Twisted Fate has his ultimate. We're seeing awkward bait dives when Shen has his ultimate available. We're overextending under tower when there's a Pantheon showing in the lane. Like, I mean, I really don't know what to make of it. It just seems like a lot of over-aggression from both teams. Both teams kind of feel like they're racing against the clock when there's really no clock to race. Both teams kind of have a very similar win con. You know, they have these strong split pushers, these strong initiators, and these strong global pickoff threats, but it kind of feels like they're just trying to close it out in 15 minutes. It's just, I don't think it needs to happen that way. I think they have a lot more time than they're playing like they do.
I need to check the settings. Did somebody set this to team deathmatch? Like
yeah,
it's very, very weird, to say the least, with both teams having the same play.
First to 50 wins, Daniel. I think that's how they're trying to play it.
It's what it kind of feels like. You'll actually, going up against Constith, it does have Frez nearby. Reinforcements coming in. That's going to be Architecture. You're going to try and dodge away, going to get away from the GP ultimate, but here comes Frosty. Once again, the TF ult was ready to come assist. Going to pass that double right on over to Architecture, who has already been having a fantastic game himself as well, with 7 kills on the board. That pony hurts.
It's exactly what we were just talking about, right? Like, you have the 2v2 top, you know the Twisted Fate ult's available, you know the Shen ult isn't available, and we're still looking for it. And it just kind of feels a little sloppy. But Trick here getting chased down in the jungle by Architecture. He should just be able to jump over the wall here. He does actually manage to secure this fight, but rather than jumping over the wall, he jumps back in, flashes over the wall. Architecture just going to dive down and kill him. Nyansfo is soon to follow, and that's a double kill. Like,
Ping.
why?
Ping. Like, why is this happening indeed? Like,
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I guess the argument for St. Clair is that they have all this steam and they're like worried that if they don't keep the aggression up, they're going to lose it. But the steam is not on Shen. It's definitely not on Gnar, and it's hardly on Sylas. Like, all the steam is in this bottom lane, but these awkward fights are happening in the top lane, and it's why?
Yeah, and that's what I was just thinking. It's like, everybody in that engagement was not Lassie. No one was ahead. No one should be feeling confident enough to make those kind of plays, yet they gave it their all best college try, I suppose, and that just made sure that architecture is fed well for the next couple of minutes here in this game. Already, so many Trinity forces on the side of University of Toronto. That is a lot of damage ready to come out from them. And unlike St. Clair, that's a lot of damage coming out from multiple sources, not just one. So this is going to be nerve-wracking as objectives start to become a bigger picture here. As St. Clair on the point right now, they might have to use the rend from Lassie to try and secure this. That's going to be a charge in from Architecture. Shen's down. That's going to be a passed over Dragon. Gift wrapped, secured, delivered by drone right to the doorstep of St. Clair. And goodbye, everybody. Good night.
I mean, that fight just kind of fell apart right from the beginning. Trick was on like 20% health before it even started.
That Dragon really beat him up, yeah.
They lost their smite before it started. Then Yule gets kind of targeted down. Frez isn't even there to respond, and Frez is basically all this team has for a team fight initiation, right? Like, you have the Shen Taunt, which is good at picking off one target. You have the Pantheon Stun, which is good for picking off one target. But Gnar is all they really have as far as team-wide CC goes, unless Yule manages to get a good steal. And it's just fully exploitable by this Toronto squad. I mean, I was actually shocked. I was going to say it before the team fight started. This Twisted Fate build is an AD Twisted Fate build. They have no AD. They've completely, like, they've actually given away a lot of value that they have with their composition by reducing the damage types that they have into a fully tank comp on St. Clair's side. So, like, both teams are just, like, really throwing a little bit, like, with these choices that they're making. And I think it's just going to come down to how this Callista can work to secure these objectives. That death was unfortunate, but I don't think it discredits how strong Lozzie is right now. Like, 150 CS, 9 kills, coming up on that death stance now at 20 minutes. That's going to be a 3-item Callista before the Baron spawns. So that's a lot of damage for sure. We'll have to see what Lozzie is able to do with that, with his kind of withering tank line right now at the beginning of this game.
And hey, if it sounds like I'm being savage to our own squad, there is a reason why they tell us to try and be neutral when doing commentary. But just wanted to see him do well. So pointing out things here and there that do seem off. But I would be curious if I had the opportunity to sit down with some of the players afterwards, maybe pick their brain on it, maybe go on Bird's Eye View or something and talk. Considering Miensfo was one of the hosts for that, that'd be actually perfect. It's up on YouTube, by the way. Go check it out.
We should be honest. There's a lot of questionable plays coming out from both sides.
Absolutely.
A lot of just back and forth fighting in places where you don't really expect to see it here. Like, I would, if I'm St. Clair here, for example, I just give away this blue buff, right?
Yeah, don't even try it. Yeah.
But because that's what happens, right? If you don't, we're already down. What is it? 10k gold. There's an Ocean Drake on the side of Toronto. They've got all these stuns and all this ability to make picks. You're not in position. You just give it away, right? And I hope that those comments are being understood as comments, because it's just it's situations like that, like, where I think it's an opportunity for growth and for learning, right? Like, after the game ends, when you're sitting back and you're doing these VOD reviews and you're saying, what could I have done differently? It's these moments right there, these overextensions, that are the perfect place for that learning and growth, to see, how can I approach the situation differently? How strong am I, right? First, to take that initiation. How strong am I to potentially turn this initiation back and maybe get a kill or two for myself? And are those kills even worth it for my team?
Exactly.
Right? Sometimes the kill's not worth getting. And there's been a couple kills in this game where they've been very good, and we've seen a lot of really good rotations from both teams. But we've also seen a couple times where maybe they didn't need to make that play, and they miscalculated how necessary those kills were. But going back now to 21 minutes, right now, honestly, even though there's a pretty significant level discrepancy for Architecture over Trick, I don't think the smite cooldown actually matters when you have a Callista this fed, because Callista's run can basically smite for them. So I think both teams actually have a decent chance of contesting the Baron, but there is a 10k gold lead for UFD that needs to be accounted for before engaging on these fights.
Yeah, this game in general, like, both teams are playing weird, to say the least. Just unfortunately for St. Clair, it's not necessarily been weird in their favor. They managed to have themselves 2 dragons so far. Another one on the way very shortly. So they've got that, but yeah, this is basically the gold lead that finished off the game last time. So one more rough team fight for St. Clair, and that could be curtains for the series, especially since that mid-hit inhibitor is already down. Those super minions are going to be pounding away on those Nexus turrets very shortly. We do have Lazzy back there ready to clean it up, but how long can he stay there and not be needed for an objective of some sort? And it looks like Trick might find himself caught out. 2 teleports coming in. They're actually going to engage on this. Trick using the taunt to run away. But now Yule's in a bit of an awkward spot. Another teleport is being forced. Frez is going to get chunked down to half before anything can even happen in this team fight. So there goes your tank. It's going to be the ults coming up from Architecture. Going to split everybody up. Yule off to the sidelines, getting taken down by Constant. But right now, Architecture is just right point blank against Lazzy. I don't care if you can jump back after every shot. The pony is quick and is going to stick to him like glue. Take him down. The only real DPS threat on the side of St. Clair is gone. Super minions in the base. We're going to have ourselves a quick game here, as it's going to be University of Toronto cleaning up Game 2 here from St. Clair in the 23-minute mark, it looks like.
Yeah, and it's a well-played series from Toronto. They knew their comp very well, and they knew how to execute it. And obviously these players, as we were mentioning at the beginning of the series, are very proficient in all their champions and their roles. Like, actually seeing a full, swap. I think pretty much everybody other than Ryan swapped roles for game number 2, and they still managed to perform at a very high level. So obviously a very talented team. And I think for St. Clair, looking back at this game, there's a lot to learn from this game, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great thing, because as the season progresses and as you play more, you'll get to learn from teams like UFT that have these really dominant players that are flexible on so many different champions and so many different roles. There's some opportunities for growth and learning there. And there's also some opportunities to look at what you did well and repeat that, right? Miansfo played out of his mind at the beginning of the game. Those first 5 minutes was a Miansfo highlight reel. I think we can actually safely clip that and throw that in a couple montages, because he was everywhere. And he put so much pressure. I thought the game was over at 5 minutes. I really did. But obviously, it's a couple bad fights here and there. It makes the game a little harder to hold on to.
No, it's good, though. At the end of the day, you learn more from your losses than your wins. Let's be honest. We could only, pride ourselves so much by getting win after win. And then we play up against a top team and get a wake-up call. So this is a nice thing. We could tell that University of Toronto, absolutely fantastic squad. They performed fantastic. Even if it was a little bit weird, they're so good that they can get away with that. And St. Clair tried to match it for that early game, especially with Mansfood and Trick converging in on making the plays together, especially around that mid lane. I remember the one jump over the Raptors. That was a pretty cool play there. But
that was really nice, yeah.
The ideas are there, but you still need the whole picture. They started off strong, and unfortunately, like you were saying, it kind of fell off a little bit. But nonetheless here, if we do take a quick look at the standings as of now then, because it's going to show the exact same thing we saw earlier. However, we can kind of start making some predictions. So we get to see what happens with Western University a little bit later. But of course, this is going to move us to 1-1. We'll probably be hovering around mid-pack for a little bit. And then the next matchup here for OPSE League of Legends, I'm going to take a double check just to confirm it and see when their next one is. It is, actually, this could be cool. So next Thursday, it is going to be the University of Windsor versus St. Clair College. So, University of Windsor, brand new program out of our hometown, of course, our friendly rivals of sorts. League of Legends, one of the first games they've picked up, and actually, according to the standings, they were third, so they're not doing too bad. So, not bad at all. I'm looking forward to the game then. But
I had the opportunity actually to scrim against the University of Windsor lineup last year when they were just a club team.
Okay.
A very strong team. And I think it's going to be really good for St. Clair to have that opportunity to practice against another team so close to home and develop those bonds. They might make for really great scrim partners moving forward on into the season. And I think having those opportunities to play games around other people that are similar in strength, but also, so close to us, just in a geographical way, it's just really nice to kind of have that resource to rely on. And if I'm St. Clair, like looking out from this game, I think there were a lot of really strong points that can carry on through the rest of the season. I think we see phenomenal communication and coordination between that bot lane. Yansfo and Lazi played exceptionally well together, especially in the lane. And they trust each other enough to take some plays that look pretty doomed and flip them on their head. So yeah, I think there's lots of really good spaces to kind of push forward into the season. And maybe it just takes playing around the bot side a little bit more and giving a little bit more attention to Lazi and letting him be the carry that he's capable of being.
Absolutely. But with that, let's throw it over to the schedule before we do close out today. Because actually, I'm lying. I don't plan on closing this out. We have an Overwatch match right after this, actually. Right at 8 o'clock, we're going to go see the UCEA match for St. Clair. Not 100% sure on the opponents, but I'll get that very shortly. Zeddy, you're more than welcome to join me again if you would like, but we'll have to see. Otherwise, other than the match later on today, of course, NACE Overwatch continues tomorrow versus Northwood University, the #1 team in our group. Then on Friday, UCA CSGO. We have a League of Legends tournament from Drury Esports. Their invitational starting at 11 a.m. on Saturday. The TESPA Call of Duty Modern Warfare season starts underway, or continues rather, on Sunday at 7 p.m. as well. Our team currently sitting 2-0 in that series. Look to see if they can keep that going. And then Monday is the season finale for NACE Overwatch, because the playoffs will be after that. But for the first part of our stream here tonight, one last time, just wanted to thank the sponsors, of course, that do make this happen. Of course, being St. Clair College itself, St. Clair College Alumni Association, SRC, PC Outlet, Zuckelman School of Business and IT, and Tim Hortons. Thank you all for making this possible. Zeddy, thank you so much for joining me here on this League of Legends cast. There'll definitely be more in the future. I hope you get to get out here some more times.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure doing it with you, Danners. And thank you so much to everybody that came out and watched and supported our St. Clair team. I know they love having you in the Twitch chat, and we love having you there so that we're not just talking to ourselves. So,
of course.
so much for being there and supporting your teams. And stick around for Overwatch at 8 p.m.
Sounds good. We'll see you in 20 minutes. Legends, one of the first games they've picked up.